Welcome back to my Judgment Legends diary. We're going to have a look at making bases, making your own bases, moulding them, casting them. So here we've got some masters that I made a little while ago. They're just a lot of plastic card, plastic tube, bit of green stuff. These are quite rough, but they're going to suit a destroyed Space Hulk kind of board. What I've got here is some easy cast. It's silicone. You can see here a bit more detail on the bases. You can see the rough edges there. These aren't too bad. There are a couple that I didn't expect to come out well, and they've actually come out better than I thought they would. A couple of little undercuts there. Undercutting is when you have a sort of edge that when you pull it out of the mould, you might tear the mould. So what I'm doing here is I'm just setting them up on a... this is actually the door of a video cabinet. I'm just marking out a bit of cardboard there to make this box. The box is going to go around it, so when we pour the silicone in, that's just going to be a little dam. So just putting the bases in now to test, make sure that this is going to fit. And this is some clean clay. It's a non-reactive clay that doesn't react with the silicone when we make the mould. Very good for sealing up the edges of a box. So you just lay out a layer of this. Then what we're going to do is put the box down on top of it, and then sort of seal up the edges. So here you can see I'm just testing to make sure the box actually fits on this bit of clean clay. And then I've probably spread it out a bit more, and I'm just pushing it down into the clay. So it forms a nice seal around the bottom of the box, so I don't have to muck around too much. And just pushing it in with my finger there, and on the inside as well, there's a few little gaps. You just need to be relatively smooth inside. This is fairly smooth. We put our objects in. You want about a 5mm gap at least between your little bases here, just so the mould's nice and strong. Then we just push them down gently into the clay, not too far, just enough that you form a seal, because otherwise the resin's going to go underneath them, and that's no good at all, because you'll have to cut it out later. Just neatening them all up. They're all stuck in nice and firm. This is some mould release. What this does is stops the silicone from sticking to anything. So because I'm just using some cardboard here, and I haven't sealed these bases properly, I'm just using the spray, and that's going to stop the silicone from sticking too much. This is the silicone here. It's a 2-part. I don't know if you can see on the container there, it says ratio 100 to 10, so it's a 10 to 1 ratio. You just need to make sure, say if you've got 100 grams of the agent, you put in 10 grams of the other thing. So there's electronic scales there that I use. So I'm just going to mix this up. So this is the main part of the silicone here. It's this just gooey white stuff. I don't have to worry too much about mixing this because I'm actually just using up the last of what I got, so it should work out. And actually it did, it worked out almost perfectly. Here we are, just putting a little blue mixing agent in there. And the reason this is a different colour is so that when you mix it up, you can see that this blue agent's gotten all the way through. It's very important, otherwise some of your silicone won't set properly. So just mixing this up here. You can see as I mix it up, it's going to get bluer and bluer. We're going to end up with a nice blue goo. There you go. You can see it's forming bubbles on the top as well. That's a natural part of the process and something you need to try and eliminate. The bubbles are fine, you just need to try and make sure they get out the top. I noticed a little problem with the mould here, so I've just put a bit more clean clay on the outside to fill a little gap where the tape wasn't covering it. So when you're pouring the liquid, you want to pour it fairly close to the corner if you can, and just pour it in the same spot, and you just let it run over all the masters. Don't move it around and try and cover everything yourself, just let it flow naturally, and that's going to get you a nice even surface. You can see there's some white in there, that's where it hasn't mixed properly. Hopefully that'll all go to the top. When I did cast this, actually, when I set this mould up and let it dry, there was a bit of residue on top, but that's fine. You see the bubbles coming to the surface there. Just giving the thing a bit of a jiggle here, and that should solve any little problems with bubbles getting caught underneath. And I've just noted the time there, so it's 12 o'clock, so I'll just come back 24 hours later. And you see there, this is the next day, and it's nice and hard. So this is actually 2 days later because I didn't look at it the next day, but it would have been fine the next morning pretty much. So what we're going to do now, just cut the clean clay. Just get rid of it along that edge. Just makes it a lot easier to pull the box up. Just along one edge there, and then we can just pull this up, and you'll see the mould's stuck inside, and it's taken all the masters with it. That's what we want to see. We want to see the masters going with it. Very easy to just pull this off. It doesn't stick very much. And we just pop out the masters there. Some of these are a bit more stuck than other ones. Depends how much undercut they've got. So you're pulling that out, and there's a bit of rubbish there. You can see just inside there, all that little crappy bit. I'm going to have to cut that out with a knife later. That's because I didn't seal the edges of the moulds properly. Just clean it in a bit of soapy water. You want to get all that mould release agent off, and just any other leftover resin. Alright, so this is later on at the battle bunker. This is our resin that we're actually going to cast with. You see my plastic cup. Again, it's 2-part. This is 50-50 ratio though, so 1 part to 1 part. Just brush a bit of talcum powder into the mould there. It helps the resin from sticking. You don't need to do this every time. Once you've got a bit in there, it's fine. I've actually probably got too much on this mould, so I just brushed a bit off. And here we are mixing it up. Again, very important to get this in an exact ratio. This is easy cast from Barnes. It's about $48 a kilo. I had too much in this one, so I've actually got another little Hearst Arts mould there that I'm just going to fill up with any excess that I've got. Turns out that this set of bases only actually needs about 25 or so grams of resin, and I think in this test I'd mixed up 40 grams. Just see there, just a nice easy pour up to the top. Doesn't matter too much if you go over. You don't want to go too much over because you don't really want to waste the resin. As I said, it is pretty expensive. But you see there, just pour nicely up to the top. Some of it's spilled over a bit. I'll show you how to fix that in just a second. So you can see again, there's bubbles. Give it a bit of a shake to try and get those bubbles up to the top. You can see there it started curing on that one. It's just turning white already. You've only got about a minute and a half to work with this resin, and it sets in about an hour. So you can see there's some excess there. So all we do is get a paddle pop stick, just scrape off the top. Another way you can do it is put a bit of paper towel on there, and that'll soak up the excess, but I prefer to just scrape it off a bit. This is about an hour later, just popping these out of the mould. Now they will sweat, so they've got a sticky residue, or not a sticky residue, a slimy residue on them. So again, you need to give them a bit of a wash. You see the back of the mould there's a bit wet as well. Needs a bit more cleaning, I think. And you can see all that resin that's just stuck on the mould there. You can just pull that off. So I'm just going to take these, drop them in some soapy water that I prepared earlier. This is about the 4th cast I've done with this mould. I want to make sure it worked before I filmed it. Just put them in the water there, give them a swish around. Your bases are ready to be used. Lovely.